YouTube, what is good? It is your boy Stimmy2 times, back at you again today with another Apex Legends video. And in today's video, guys, we got the new season Among Us, season 19, so that means it is time for a new weapon tier list. And guys, not the craziest amount changed for weapon meta as far as that goes, but some weapons did move up and down for sure, so I got that for you today. If you agree with me or disagree with me, I would love to hear from you in the comments below. And also, please leave a like and a subscribe if you did enjoy the video. I would really appreciate y'all's support. Alright guys, I will catch y'all on the next one. Peace. Alright YouTube, let's get straight into this. So, first off, we are starting off with the 30-30. And I am going to put the 30-30 in S tier. It just got a nerf, but honestly guys, the nerf was really insignificant, as all it really did was nerf the hipfire. So it didn't really affect the damage or anything else that would really make it like drop a tier. So 30-30, still a great weapon, still going to serve you very well. I would still definitely recommend using it. Next, we have the alternator. And honestly guys, the alternator is cool, but it's just not great, right? So with the disruptor rounds, it's easily an A tier weapon, but without it, I'm just going to leave it in B tier. It's really solid, but it doesn't do anything great, right? Like, probably going to take an R99 over this any day. So yeah, I'm just going to put the alternator in B. Next is the bow check, and the bow check is really solid. It's not S tier because some of the overall usability for the general population of players isn't great, but what it does do well, it does amazing, so that warrants an A tier placement for me. I was never really a fan of the gun, but I've been using it here and there every once in a while, and it definitely does very well. But I know how popular this thing is and how many people love it, so A tier it is. Next is the car, and I am going to put the car in A tier. It is basically a step below the R99, and it takes 2 ammo types. That's also great. Don't really ever have to struggle with ammo for it. I wish I had more attachments, maybe a laser that would kind of like amplify the car, but the trade-off for having 2 weapon type for ammo is great. So I think I'm going to put the car A. Definitely makes a lot of sense, and definitely a great weapon. Next is the charge rifle, and I'm going to put that in C tier. After they reworked it, it was okay. It can definitely still do a lot of damage. Like, you can hit people for 100 with this thing, but it's just not the most user-friendly weapon ever. It used to be arguably better because of the hit scan, but now, like I said, you can still hit people for a lot of damage, but it's very inconsistent. Next, we have the devotion, and I'm going to put the devotion in D tier. With all its attachments and the hop, actually no, I'm going to move the devotion to C tier just because of the turbocharger buff this season now not taking a damage point away. I think I'm going to put the devotion C tier. Next is the EVA 8, and I'm going to put that in D tier. Definitely the worst shotgun and one of the worst weapons in the game. It can do great damage up close, but it's horribly inconsistent and very inaccurate. So I think this warrants the D tier placement. It's just, if you're going to use a shotgun, why not use the Master for the PK? You know what I'm saying? Next, we got the flatline, and I really want to put this S tier, but the only reason I'm not going to is because of the simple fact that a lot of people can't control the recoil associated with it. So I think that makes sense to put it in A tier, but still an amazing weapon. Honestly, for me, it's S tier, but I just got to think about the rest of the populace when making this tier list. So yeah, I'm going to throw that flatline in A tier. Next is the G7 Scout, and this thing's okay. I really wouldn't take it over like the 30-30 or anything like that. It's basically the alternator in like a marksman rifle form, if that makes sense. Like, it doesn't do anything like great, but it's still an all-around great balanced weapon. Next, we got the Havoc, and I'm going to put the Havoc in A tier, especially with that hop-up buff that it just got with the turbocharger. I think that more than enough earns it a spot in A tier. It does great damage, has great fire rate. Without the hop-up, it's more so towards a B tier weapon, but honestly, guys, the Havoc is really, really underrated. Does great things for you as a weapon, and I would definitely recommend picking it up this season and definitely going to try to find one of those turbochargers. Next, we got the Hemlock, and this received a nerf this season, but honestly, to me, it doesn't feel like it matters that much. It got a -1 damage reduction, so you can definitely tell it made like an effect, but not a significant enough effect to actually drop it to A tier. So I think we're going to be seeing the Hemlock plenty this season still, so go out there and use it more until they nerf it again. Next is the Kraber, and I'm going to put the Kraber in A tier. The only reason, and I mean literally the only reason I'm not putting it S tier, is because of the ammo capacity. If this thing had more bullets, it's an S tier weapon through and through, like without a doubt. Next is the L-Star, and this thing is absolutely ridiculous. Literally, this thing will shred everything. They put it back on the ground this season, and man, it feels like it's still in the care package, basically. I mean, this thing, just can't say enough how good it is, how much damage it does. It's so versatile. Like, you can run it as an AR, SMG, whatever you want. This thing will rip, and definitely worth using this season. Next is the Longbow, and honestly, guys, Longbow's cool, right? I just don't think it's better than like the Sentinel or the Kraber. It's like basically the mid tier of snipers, if that makes sense. So I think B tier is a perfect spot for it, honestly. Next is the Mastiff, and I'm gonna put the Mastiff in B tier. It just kind of lacks in damage, and I just feel like, again, if you're gonna use a shotgun, you might as well go and try to find a PK, especially because of the disruptors. So unless a Mastiff gets the buff or something like that in the near future, I don't think it's going to raise any tiers. Next is the Mozam, and obviously this thing sucks. It sucks just as much as the EVA 8 does, although I feel like I'd rather have an EVA 8, but still, I just feel like these two shotguns are just not very good. And again, why not use the Mastiff or the PK instead? I just don't get it. So definitely Mozambique D tier. Next is the Nemesis, and the Nemesis, I'm surprised didn't get a nerf with season 19. It's still amazing, still will put down people very, very quick, still probably the best AR in the game besides the Hemlock. So yeah, don't shy away from using the Nemesis. Next is the P2020, and I'm going to put that F tier. With the hop up, maybe it's D tier or maybe even very low C tier, but without it, it's terrible. You know, it's the starter pistol, doesn't really do any good. Don't listen to anybody that tells you that the P2020 is good. They don't know what they're talking about. Next is the PK, and I'm gonna put the PK in A tier, especially because of the disruptor rounds. A great shotgun. Mad Maggie should be really good this season, so I would try to grab a PK, disruptors, and Mad Maggie, and you're going to fry with this thing. Next is the Prowler, and the Prowler still being in the care package with select fire. That thing automatic is just absolutely ridiculous. Just absolutely rips through shields. Easy kills all around. So I mean, thing hasn't really changed since it's been in the care package, so it's gonna stay S tier, and definitely probably the best SMG in the game. Next is the R301. I'm gonna put the R301 in A tier. It's not good enough to be S tier, but one of the classic weapons in the game. Very, very, very easy to use. Still does great damage and will definitely serve you well. Next is the R99, and we already know about the R99 at this point, how good it is, just how it continues to dominate even with nerfs. I don't really think this thing will ever dip below S tier, so just keep using it. Still very good weapon. Next is the Rampage. I'm gonna put that in E tier. With The Thermite, it moves up into C tier, but without it, it's just not the greatest weapon. Slow fire rate. It's just, there's quite a bit better options. So yeah, I think the Rampage in E tier makes sense. Next is the RE45. I'm going to put it in B tier. It's right up there with the Alternator for me with the hop up. You could, I don't know if it moves up a tier with the hop up, but it's just doesn't have enough ammo, but it's still a really good gun. Just a lot of these other guns I'd use over it particularly. So yeah, RE45 in B tier. Next, I got the Sentinel. The Sentinel's an amazing weapon, especially when you charge it up with the shield cells. If you're a fan of sniping, I would definitely recommend picking this thing up. It's been great for a long time and can get you some really, really nice clips. So yeah, I'd recommend it for sure. Next is the Spitfire. Probably the best LMG in the game besides the L-Star, if we're being real. Just got a buff with close range in Season 18, so that definitely makes it better, but I just can't warrant it being above the guns above it. So yeah, I think the Spitfire in B tier makes sense. Next is the Triple Take, and I am going to put the Triple Take in probably A tier. I really like the Triple Take. I think it does great damage. It's very consistent, and the way that the bullets spread out in that triangle formation makes it really, really easy to hit shots. And like I said, just does really great damage, real consistent, and it just feels like a good weapon. Next is the Volt, and I'm going to put the Volt in B tier. It really, really is just like that mid-tier SMG, just like the Alternator. It has really, really nice recoil control and strafe speed, so I think that warranted that B tier placement, but sometimes the damage is just real inconsistent. And finally, the Wingman that just got put in the care package this season. Absolutely an S tier weapon. It feels great, does tons of damage, and got a brand new hop up. I would 100% recommend going out there and trying this thing out this season, as it is very, very worth it. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy.